Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Dawn gently illuminated Chicago's airport, painting the windows with a golden glow. In the nearly empty terminal, announcements echoed faintly, while hurried passengers dragged their suitcases across the polished floor. Seated in first-class seat 12B, Monica Reynolds stared out the window, her face calm, almost impassive. At 38, she was the epitome of elegance and quiet authority. Her tailored black jacket, Italian leather bag, and attentive gaze betrayed her success. Monica was not just an entrepreneur, she was a philanthropist, an influential investor, and a respected figure in the American business world. But that morning, she wasn't seeking admiration, she was simply looking for a peaceful journey. The flight attendant, Jessica Harper, young and seemingly perfect, approached with a forced smile. But her eyes betrayed a mixture of judgment and contempt, a subtle coldness that only those who know how to observe notice. "Excuse me, madam. You shouldn't be here," she said in a syrupy but condescending tone. Monica looked up in surprise and slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. "Excuse me?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Jessica didn't respond immediately. She glanced around at the other passengers as if to signal that Monica was out of place, before whispering to one of her colleagues, "She looks different." Tension rose in the cabin. The few passengers present began to whisper, intrigued by the strangeness of the scene. Monica remained motionless, letting the silence settle like a heavy veil. She knew the situation could escalate if she lost her composure, but she also felt that this contempt had to be confronted. She took a deep breath, then slowly sat up, her piercing gaze fixed on Jessica. "I suppose you don't know who I am." His voice was calm, but each word carried a weight that the hostess could not ignore. Jessica paled imperceptibly, but Monica continued, her voice now firmer. "I am Monica Reynolds, founder of Reynolds Enterprises and a member of the National Aviation Advisory Board." The silence grew even heavier. The passengers held their breath. Monica, standing, displayed no anger. Only a natural authority that demanded respect and truth. The air in the cabin seemed to vibrate with palpable tension. Jessica froze, feeling her world crumble. The condescending smile had collapsed, replaced by silent panic. She instantly understood the magnitude of her mistake. She had just humiliated not an ordinary passenger, but a woman whose name and reputation could ruin her career in an instant. Monica sat down again, calm, leaving Jessica with a choice: continue in lies and contempt, or admit her mistake. And in that silence, all the passengers' eyes turned towards Jessica, waiting for her reaction. For the first time, she felt completely exposed. The plane had taken off, but the atmosphere on board was tense. Monica Reynolds, still seated with perfect posture, watched Jessica Harper from her seat. The flight attendant, initially self-assured, could no longer ignore the weight of silence that hung over the cabin. "Mrs. Reynolds. I think there's been a misunderstanding," Jessica stammered, her voice betraying her agitation. Monica looked up at her, placing a hand on the back of her seat. Her gaze was calm but sharp, a combination that had often compelled people to listen. "A misunderstanding?" she repeated softly. "You thought I was, what exactly? A passenger who doesn't deserve to be here?" Jessica swallowed hard. The words she had uttered earlier echoed in her head. She had judged, she had humiliated, and now the passenger's stares forced her to confront her own shame. I didn't want to," she began, unable to finish her sentence. Monica bowed slightly, her voice cooler but still polite. "Jessica, I've traveled all over the world, met hundreds of leaders and politicians, and I can assure you that respect isn't measured by skin color or a person's supposed status. You chose to judge, and now you have to live with the consequences." The passengers were whispering, some already taking out their phones, as if to immortalize the moment. Jessica felt her hands grow sweaty. She had always been proud of her impeccable appearance and confidence, but facing Monica, she felt vulnerable, exposed. I apologize, madam, she finally said, her voice trembling. Monica stared at her for a moment, assessing the sincerity of her words. Then she replied calmly. Your apology is a start, Jessica. But the real lesson here isn't saying, I'm sorry. It's understanding why your prejudices caused pain, and why you need to change your behavior, right now. Jessica nodded shyly, aware that her words alone wouldn't be enough to undo what she had done. Monica, meanwhile, resumed reading a working document, leaving Jessica to reflect on her actions. The confrontation, although silent afterwards, left a clear message to all passengers: arrogance and racism do not go unnoticed, especially when faced with someone who knows their worth and never lets themselves be belittled. And on this ordinary flight, Monica Reynolds had just transformed an airplane cabin into a living lesson in respect and dignity. The plane was now flying above the clouds, the engine purring softly, but inside the cabin, the tension was palpable. Passengers, seated or standing, exchanged furtive glances with Monica and Jessica. Everyone sensed that something important was at stake. Jessica Harper tried to regain some semblance of control. She stepped towards Monica, her voice a little more assured. Ms. Reynolds. I want to, I'm really sorry about everything just now. I didn't mean to. Monica raised a finger, interrupting him politely but firmly. Jessica. The moment has passed. I don't want to hear your apologies, but your actions. How do you intend to treat your passengers from today onward? A murmur rippled through the cabin. Several passengers had already taken out their phones. Some were recording, others were discreetly snapping photos. Jessica felt the weight of their stares upon her. Her flawless makeup suddenly seemed too light to mask the rising panic within her. I'll be more careful. She stammered, but her voice betrayed her fear. Monica stepped forward slightly, her face impassive, her black eyes piercing like arrows. Jessica, you judged someone solely on the color of their skin. You humiliated someone in front of others. Do you understand that these actions don't disappear with mere words? Jessica shook her head, unable to speak further. The passengers began to applaud softly, some whispering words of encouragement to Monica for her composure and dignity. The flight attendant, red with shame, felt her reputation and authority crumble live on air. Monica took a deep breath, then added, still calmly. It's rare that I stand up to correct someone in public. But when respect melts away like sand, you have to remind those who have forgotten what it means. At that moment, the captain entered the cabin to check on the situation. Seeing Jessica trembling and Monica motionless, he asked, Is there a problem here? Monica replied in a clear and firm voice. No, Captain. I simply wanted to ensure that respect and dignity were not forgotten on board. The captain nodded, and the situation was recorded in the crew log. Jessica, confronted with the gravity of her actions, knew she couldn't simply let the incident go unaddressed. The awkwardness was palpable, and every passenger present was now aware of Monica's lesson. Monica returned to her seat, calm, letting silence fill the cabin. But this silence was not neutral, it weighed on Jessica like a constant reminder of her arrogance and her mistake. And so, in this ordinary flight, an extraordinary lesson had been revealed, before everyone's eyes. The humiliation inflicted on others can very quickly turn against the one who provokes it. The plane landed smoothly at New York Airport. The passengers rose slowly, some exchanging approving glances, and a few murmurs of support for Monica could be heard. Jessica Harper, however, disembarked in silence, her hands trembling, unable to meet the eyes of others. As soon as the arrival signal was given, the captain called Jessica for an immediate interview. The young flight attendant found herself in a cramped office, confronted with the reality of what she had just caused. On the table, a report had already been prepared, statements from passengers, notes from the captain, and even screenshots from some videos taken on board. Jessica, the airline's supervisor, began in a grave voice, you understand that your actions were reported by several passengers and by the captain. You humiliated a passenger because of her skin color. Jessica lowered her eyes, unable to reply. She had always believed that her appearance and confidence would be enough to get her over everything, but now she understood the magnitude of her mistake. "Your apology is not enough," the supervisor continued. "The company takes this type of incident very seriously. You will be suspended and required to complete a mandatory diversity and inclusion program. Your behavior can never be repeated." Jessica nodded timidly. Every word resonated in her mind like a stinging warning. She had not only lost her immediate authority, but also risked seeing her career jeopardized. Meanwhile, Monica, remaining calm, had left the plane without showing the slightest anger. In her car, she reread her work emails, aware that her composure had been enough to correct an injustice and remind others what true respect was. Several passengers approached Monica to congratulate her. One of them said, "Thank you for speaking so calmly but firmly. You reminded us of the importance of respect." Monica smiled slightly, humbly. "I only did what everyone should do. Defending dignity and justice should not be exceptional, but normal." At that moment, Jessica, still at the company offices, fully felt the weight of her actions. She had been confronted with the truth, and all that remained was to decide whether she wanted to learn or continue in denial. The lesson was clear: arrogance and racism never go unpunished, especially when they encounter someone capable of defending their dignity with authority and intelligence. Several weeks had passed since that tense flight. Jessica Harper still hadn't returned to work. She was attending the mandatory diversity and inclusion training program imposed by the airline. Each module, each testimonial she studied, confronted her with the reality of her biases and past behavior. Sitting in front of her computer, Jessica watched a recording of the scene on board the plane. The young flight attendant now saw things from a different perspective: Monica's composure, her natural authority, the passengers' expressions that wavered between astonishment and admiration. Every detail seemed to remind her how arrogant and unfair she had been. She thought about her career, her reputation, and above all, the silent pain she had inflicted. Monica's words echoed in her head. "Respect is not measured by skin color or a person's supposed status. Your prejudices have real consequences." For the first time, Jessica felt genuine shame and a desire to change. She realized that her actions had not only affected Monica, but had also shaken passenger confidence and tarnished the company's image. Meanwhile, Monica continued her activities as if nothing had happened, but her presence remained palpable to those who had observed her. She gave lectures on leadership, received influential guests, and, discreetly, served as an example to all those who had glimpsed her dignity. One day, Jessica received an unexpected message. Monica had asked to meet with the training team, not to humiliate Jessica further, but to demonstrate the power of respect and dignity. During this meeting, Monica spoke. "This is not about punishing or blaming. It's about teaching and reminding people that every person deserves to be treated with respect. We all have a responsibility to do better, every day." Jessica felt her eyes well up. It wasn't anger that moved her, but Monica's example, her ability to correct without humiliating, to inspire without threatening. She understood then that true authority came not from position or strength, but from dignity, self-control, and wisdom. That day, Jessica made a silent vow: she would never again allow her prejudices to guide her actions. She wanted to become someone who inspired, rather than someone who put others down. And Monica, true to herself, continued to radiate, leaving behind an indelible lesson that Jessica would never forget. A few months later, Jessica Harper returned to her job as a flight attendant. This time, she was different. The condescending gestures, hasty judgments, and arrogance that had defined her had been replaced by genuine humility and a real desire to respect each passenger. On her first flight back after returning to work, Jessica caught the eye of many passengers, noting each smile, each silent gesture of gratitude. She remembered Monica's words. "Respect is not measured by status or color, but by our daily actions." Meanwhile, Monica Reynolds continued her activities, but the world now seemed a little more aware of her example. Her ability to face humiliation calmly and transform a tense situation into a lesson in dignity inspired not only those who had seen her that day, but also many others, through lectures and testimonials. Jessica, aware of the opportunity she had been given, decided to share her experience with her colleagues. She organized internal workshops, spoke openly about her mistake, and how she had learned to recognize and correct her biases. Little by little, she became an active advocate for respect on board. Her simple but consistent actions began to change the crew's perception of her. One day, she received an unexpected email from Monica. "Thank you for showing that we can learn and change. You are living proof that dignity and respect have a lasting effect." Jessica reread the message several times, feeling a gentle warmth spread through her. It was no longer fear or shame that guided her, but a new conviction: every interaction could be an opportunity to inspire respect and dignity. And in this ordinary flight, transformed by extraordinary events, Jessica understood the power of a lesson learned through humility and action. Monica, true to her nature, had not only protected her own dignity, but she had also sown a seed of lasting change in the heart of someone who had once believed she could judge without consequence. The transformation was complete. Jessica had changed, but most importantly, the world around her had also learned something: dignity, respect, and justice are never details, they are forces that transform everything in their path.